This one here only goes up to 6, and it's cutting down. I didn't think this one was going to be working right. I need to get another one over here. That's all there is to it. What I want to do is to pick up a bench supply. So what I was thinking about doing is buying a new... will this pick that up? No. I was thinking about buying a new power supply. Well, let's get a reading on this. Hold on a minute. Now see, this isn't too bad. I can handle this. It's hot, but not hot to burn. So that one is possible. All right, now let's try this one. Now this is a little bit more of a yellow light, and it gives you a 360. So we'll let that sit there for a minute. Okay, and right now the bench is 73, and that's 72. No, wait a minute, it's wrong. 74. So the bench is 72.9, and that is 74.6, but it is climbing. So see, what I'm thinking about with this lamp is right next to the couch there's a lamp, a small one, and it's old. I mean, like really old. And the wife, you know, is concerned about it getting ruined. And to be honest with you, we plugged it in probably 8 years ago. We've got one of those energy efficient bulbs in there, and it's never gotten turned off since. It's always on. We never turn it off. Just like there's a light over here in the garage that never gets turned off. It's on all the time. It's another one of those energy efficient lights. So she says, you know, I don't want to have that light get ruined because it is an old light. This light, that's on all the time. That burns less than 7 watts. So well, you know what? You know, when Ken, the channel is easy tips and tricks or something like that. You know, I can sit here all day and not hear this radio. I start talking, the radio goes off. So, and trains going by. And so, do you hear all the noise today? Jesus. I don't believe this. And this weekend, the trains have been crazy.
Medic 3, Rescue 2, Priority 2, 21 Rice Terrace for the fall in the lobby.
You know, we usually get 6 trains a day. And what the hell is that? Oh. Hello.
My name is Q.
elevator.
We don't do any elevator work. You're talking to a private residence. Well, you're calling me, but I had no idea who you're trying to call.
For the fall, part is in the lobby at this point.
Not a problem. Bye-bye. Well, that was a legitimate wrong call. Anyway, where the hell was I? I forgot now. Oh, the lamp. So when Easy Tips to Tricks or something like that, Kenny was doing this light thing a long time ago now. I said, that's a good idea. Yeah, and then it took me a while to even get motivated into it. Then it took me a while to gather up all the crap that I have around here to do it with. Then I'm going nuts trying to find the wood to do it with, because I want to find some type of wood with character. Because we don't get that wood like you find, you know, floating around in the openness, in the the desert sort of. I may be using the wrong term here, but we don't get that natural wear and tear of the weathering of the wood. So to find one that has some character to it is really tough. So anyway, then now the lights. So it's just one thing after another. But I do have a need for it. I can put it up where that other light is. All right. Anyway, I lost track of everything because all this noise that went on. Oh, damn! 6 trains a day, and they're usually 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 at night. And on the weekends, you may get a couple coming out of Boston about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. Or from New York to Boston, or Boston to New York. But other than that, that's about it. And they're, like I say, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the evening. Everybody getting out of work. So, and they're usually, I don't know, half hour to an hour apart between the traveling. But lately, man, we've been seeing trains go by here. When you're back here, you hear it more, and especially when you're way out there. Because when I was mixing the concrete before, you heard them. I was like 50 feet from the track. And when you're out here with the doors open, you hear it. Fortunate, we don't hear any of them in the house, which is good. So meanwhile, let me gather my thoughts, and I'll be right back. Meanwhile, I'm going to check the heat on that. And I got to find a couple other ones. Oh, power supply. I got this power supply over here that I use for the amateur radio and everything that's 12 volts on this bench. It's variable power. I think it goes from 9 to 15. And if I remember right, this is they call it a 35 amp. It's an Antron. Can you see it? Because I can't see it from where I'm at. I think it's a 35 amp M35 or VS35 or something like that. But it's a 35 variable with meters. Shows the amp meter and the voltmeter. And it's a good power supply. However, I've said it before. When you buy a power supply, you got to make sure you're buying the right one. Now that works. However, I can overload that power supply real quick if I turn on both radios. The radios, when you key down on them and you're modulating, meaning you're talking into it, that radio draws 27 amps. Now that can vary depending on how high I have my audio output, my deviation, my modulation, whatever you want to call it. On either one, that means a lot, or where I have the actual power set means a lot. So it can be higher or lower. That's a 35 amp power supply. However, that's 35 amp surge. Continuous power, that's going to be somewhere around 25, 28, as far as it goes amp-wise. So it's working right on the borderline. Which means when I'm running it, I'm working it. It's not just working along, it's sweating. It's working hard. So when you buy a power supply, don't go by what it says, because that's only the surge. And the surge means nothing. You know, and the more power, like 35 amp, I'm probably running, like I said, around between 25 and 28, somewhere in that neighborhood. Depending on how good the power supply is, will depend on the actual difference. Now this is an Antron, which is good, so I'm going to say this is probably 27 to 28 amps, even though it's marked 35. You buy a cheap one, and it says, we'll say 12 amps on it, you're probably going to see 5, 6, 7 amps. You know, and if your radio is looking for 12 amps, you know, or 10 amps, and it's only getting 7 amps, it's not working right. You're working your radio, and it's going to starve, and you're overworking your power supply, and you're going to blow it up sooner than you think. So you always want to make sure you know what the continuous amperage is, output amperage. You want to make sure that it's a variable. Well, you don't need variable, but variable is nice, and regulated is a must. I don't like these new power supplies that are out there. I like the linear supplies. They have transformers in them. They're big, all right? They're heavy, and they cost more. All right, now there's a 35 amp, all right? 9 to 15. See this little one here? That's what? That's not big at all. I mean, how big is it? We're maybe 5 or 6 inches by 1.5 inches by maybe 8 inches long. And I think they're calling this one a 60 amp. Yeah, 60 amp. Right? Yeah, come on. You know what I mean? You know how long that's going to last? So, but meanwhile, what I'm thinking of doing is taking that power supply, moving it over here for the bench power supply, which is actually more than I need. And then buying maybe a 60 amp power supply over here. Again, sticking with the Antron, because I like the Antrons. I want the variable. I want the amp and voltmeter, and I want it filtered and regulated. And Antron is the way to go, in my opinion. Especially when you're putting a lot of money into radios that thing is controlling. You know, and then if I go with a 60 amp, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to see at least 50 out of it. Maybe even a little more. So that's what I was thinking of doing. I mean, instead of buying a power supply over here, you know, and buying a 15 amp that's going to give me 10 or 12, you know, or a 20 amp that's going to give me maybe 15 to 17, you know, in that area, and then variable, it's going to cost me a couple $100. Well, you know what? I might as well just buy a bigger one and get it over with. Now that one, I think, costs $209. The next one up that I'm looking at, I really don't know what it is. It's probably going to be in the $300 bracket. But, you know, in my case, you know, when you've got, you know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 worth of radios or better hooked up to it, you don't want to blow them up because you don't have the right power supply. So, anyway, let's get a reading on this, see where we are. 93. It's hot to hold. I mean, I'm feeling heat. It's not, ouch. I can hold on to it, but it's getting hotter. And it would get to a point to being uncomfortable. So that, I don't know either. Again, that'll be good if it was outside the wood, not inside. The same with the wafer. All right, let me get some thoughts here and I'll be right back.